What are variant rules in Pathfinder 2nd edition? What are they all about? And how much do these variant rules vary the many varied rules of a non-variant Pathfinder 2nd edition? This is the Dominomicon, authored and hosted by me, Dominic. The Dominomicon is dedicated to all nerdy things, with my current obsession being the TTRPG Pathfinder 2nd edition. In this video chapter, I'll cover 5 of my favourite Pathfinder 2e variant rules, sharing my years of GMing experience with them. I'll break down how they work, along with their pros and cons, presented in no particular order. Variant rules, for those not in the know, are basically officially unofficial optional rules created by Paizo that you can bolt onto your PF2e campaign, some with minor alterations to how things work, and some that can make rather large modifications. Some of these variant rules are no longer included in the remastered PF2e rules, though they're still readily available and are still widely used. I'll also be doing a tiny channel update at the end of this video chapter, so stay tuned up until then if you want to hear what I have to say. For now though, let's jump straight in, and if you find this video helpful and or enjoyable, please give it a like and consider subscribing. Away we go. Number 1. Gradual ability boost. I know that abilities have been renamed to attributes in the remaster, but we'll stick with the old name for simplicity's sake. So in vanilla PF2e, your attributes increase every 5th level, which is level 5, 10, 15, and 20. And once you reach these levels, you get to pick 4 boosts to 4 different attributes. Nice and simple. Gradual ability boost, on the other hand, splits up these boosts into almost every level, giving you character build options more often rather than all at once. Because there's 4 boosts that you get roughly every 5 levels, this means that you have 1 level every 5 that doesn't get a boost, but otherwise you get 1 every level. So you skip choosing a boost at level 6, 11, and 16. And of course, you still cannot pick the same boost twice in the same 5 levels. So if you boost strength at level 2, you cannot boost it again until level 7. The pros to this variant rule are, number 1, character growth feels more natural. In normal PF2e, your character goes to sleep one day, then wakes up and is more intelligent, more charismatic, more dexterous, and stronger, all in one night. Gradual ability boost allows your character to get this growth slowly over time rather than all at once, which feels a little more realistic. Pro number 2, more choices spread more evenly. PF2e has plenty of choices to make each and every time you level up, but for me at least, getting choices more regularly rather than all at once is more fun, and means that you don't have a huge amount of choices to make at certain levels, as it's spread out a bit more. Cons to this rule are, number 1, balance can be a bit off. Not hugely, but having characters get +1 to their stats when they shouldn't necessarily get them just yet can slightly skew the balance in their favour. It'll catch up within a few levels, but PCs might find things very slightly easier than if you didn't use this variant rule. Con number 2, slightly more complex than the normal rules. Having to remember which boost you picked 3 levels ago, unless you made note of it or used a character builder like Path Builder, could be confusing for new players, and simply getting more choices more frequently might also be a lot to a new player. Overall, I actually highly recommend Gradual Ability Boost, and I cannot imagine playing in a PF2e game without it. The pros speak for themselves, and I honestly just love that gradual progression rather than having it all at once. Next variant rule, number 2, Ancestry Paragon. This variant rule is very simple. You get more Ancestry feats. Normally in PF2e, you get an Ancestry feat at level 1, 5, 9, 13, and 17, but with Ancestry Paragon, you get them every odd level, and you even start with 2 at level 1. Let's get straight into the pros here. Number 1, more feats equals more choices. More choices equals more complexity. And I think more complexity is more fun. Simple as that. Pro number 2, it allows deeper ancestral expression. Your ancestry feels more unique as you have more mechanical and flavorful ways to show it. This obviously helps more in a campaign with lots of different ancestries in the party, but it can still help differentiate your character from others with the same ancestry due to 2 players rarely picking exactly the same things. On to the cons. Number 1, for some ancestries, there just aren't enough feats in the lower levels. Automaton, for example, only gets 6 feats between level 1 and 4, meaning that you'll have to pick 3 of them, which is literally half of them, and there's feats in there that might not suit your character that you may find yourself being forced to take. And this can sometimes make you feel almost forced to pick a custom mixed heritage or adopted ancestry just so you have more choices. Con number 2, more choices, at level 1 especially, can be very complex for newer players. It can make the system look more complicated than it actually is. Despite the cons, I still love Ancestry Paragon because I just love having more choices for my characters. But for new players especially, make sure to inform them that certain ancestries might have very limited choices, and it's probably worth looking through the lower level ancestry feats up until level 5-ish just to be sure that they won't have an issue with being forced to take a feat that doesn't suit their character at all. Next up, number 3, automatic bonus progression. This one is a little more complex than the others and even comes with a variant rule of the variant rule itself, which I'll get to later. Automatic bonus progression, or ABP, gives characters the benefits of item bonuses innately, meaning that they don't need to get runes and magical items to increase their stats, and it even disables all of these bonuses from working entirely. Armor is the exception to this particular rule, but that doesn't include the runes that you would put on that armor. There's a nice chart for you to follow that basically explains everything for you. As you can see here, at level 2, every character gains a +1 on their attack rolls, as if they had found an attack potency rune, and at level 3, they get to pick a skill to get a permanent +1 on. At level 4, they get the same benefits as if they had a striking rune put on all of their weapons, and so on. So the pros of this variant rule are, number 1, less faffing around with runes. PF2E pretty much expects your GM to give you runes at certain levels to keep up with the scaling of enemies, etc. And with this variant rule active, both the GM and the players never have to worry about that again, which really helps the GM when it comes to loot distribution. Pro number 2, it's simpler. Not having to worry about runes and item bonuses just makes things a little easier to track, as these bonuses are automatic. Pro 3, more money for other things. The players don't need to keep saving for runes and can spend their money on whatever they want. Pro 4, more weapon choices. Runes are expensive, and having to keep all your weapons runed up to keep them in line with the fights you'll be having is tricky, especially in the early game. But with this variant rule active, you don't have to worry about that at all anymore, and can use any weapons you like without fear of them underperforming because you aren't rich. Pro 5, the characters themselves are more powerful, not just because of their items. It feels a little bit better that your characters themselves get more powerful rather than them just being lucky enough to find a sort of destiny plus a million. For some players, this can make the world feel more immersive and less loot oriented. On to the cons. Number 1, item bonuses being removed kinda sucks. While magical items still have their uses with abilities that can be activated, losing that +1, +2, etc. means that magic items just aren't as worth it anymore, which might make loot a lot less fun. Con 2, limited skill bonuses. Normally in PF2E, you could potentially get around 10 different non-stackable item bonuses to any of your skills, but with this variant rule, you're limited to only having a few over the course of the entire campaign. This can feel rather limiting for those that want to diversify their skill bonuses. Con number 3, casters are going to feel left out when it comes to money. Normally in PF2E, marshals spend some of their cash on runes, whereas casters spend some of theirs on wands, scroll, and staves, etc. But with this variant rule, the marshals have more money freed up than the casters do, which might make them feel like they're always struggling to afford things in comparison. An easy fix for this, however, is just to get your party to share cash with each other. It is a co-op game after all. The cons of this variant rule are actually pretty extreme, which is where the variant rule of this variant comes in, with the name being automatic rune progression. This is actually built into Foundry VTT as an optional rule due to its popularity, but it basically works exactly the same as the normal rule but removes the item bonuses you get innately for skills. And this means that item bonuses work as normal, and all of your other automatic bonuses still go up as they otherwise would. This pretty much negates most of the issues you could possibly have with this variant rule and almost makes it a no-brainer. Next up is variant rule number 4, stamina. The stamina variant rule essentially splits up your HP into two, HP and stamina, funnily enough. HP works as normal, but stamina works a little different. For one, it goes down first before your HP does, though temporary HP still goes down actually first, and stamina cannot be restored with healing spells, treat wounds, or potions, etc. Instead, stamina is restored via a couple of different ways, the most important being the new exploration activity, Take a Breather, which takes just 10 minutes and restores all of it. Everyone gets this activity so long as the variant rule is in effect. The thing is, using this action, along with a couple of others that have been added while using this variant rule, costs you a new resource, Resolve. You gain a number of Resolve points equal to your primary attribute, and you regain them after a full rest. This particular variant rule is best used in campaigns that don't have access to easy healing magic or skills, such as when you have a party with no healer or no one trained in medicine, as it allows you to quickly heal a decent chunk of your health with just a single 10-minute rest. But it can otherwise be seen as a way to explain combat taking its toll on you before it finally starts taking your HP away. Stamina is worked out differently for each class depending on how much HP that class gets every level, and there's a few feats you can take to help recover stamina. Encouraging Words is pretty awesome, as it's basically treat wounds except it uses diplomacy instead of medicine. Anyway, let's go into the pros. Number 1, limited healing campaigns. As I already said, it's great for campaigns with little access to healers, or even sessions when your healer can't make it because of those real life things that I keep hearing about. Obligations, that's the word. Pro number 2, it's quicker. Having multiple skill checks to do at the end of every fight can take time, and stamina mostly removes the need for that entirely. Pro 3, it's more immersive. Some players like the idea that combat slowly ticks away at your stamina before eating away at your HP, as surely your characters would have a million scars on their bodies if they are constantly getting slashed and stabbed. Stamina can add verisimilitude to a campaign if needed. Pro 4, different ways to restore HP. Like with Encouraging Words, you don't always need to have access to the medicine skill in campaigns with stamina, which means that healing is opened up a little to those who wouldn't normally be considered healers. Pro 5, healer classes can do more than just heal. Support classes can now do more than just heal every turn, as you need to wait wait for stamina and HP to drop before you can actually heal with your standard healing abilities, which can open up support roles to other things, potentially. On to the cons. Number 1, another resource to manage is potentially extra complexity. It's not particularly tough to track resolve and stamina, but it is an extra layer added on an already layer-rich system, which some players might not appreciate. Con 2, people who like support classes might feel useless. As hard as it might be to believe, some people actually like playing as healers in games like this, and having a bunch of healing spells that you cannot use most of the time might make them feel pointless. And this is because of stamina's biggest issue, con number 3, stamina scaling. Stamina scales to the point where it's roughly 2/3 of your entire health bar, making combat potentially much more dangerous as you level up. So if you were a healer in a normal PF2E game and you saw that one of your fellow party members had 2/3 of their HP missing, you'd immediately want to heal that, as they will most likely go down in one unlucky crit, something that PF2E loves to throw at you. But with the stamina variant rule in place, unless you're good with diplomacy, even with some kick-ass healing spells, there's nothing you can do to help, and that's kind of terrifying. You only have to look at a barbarian's HP stamina split at level 1 and compare it to level 20 to see how strangely stamina scales. An option to fix this is to allow healing abilities to heal stamina too, but then your party will generally opt to use them over using resolve, as abilities like lay on hands can be used infinitely and resolve cannot. You could possibly alter how much stamina versus HP a character gets, but if you're using digital tools, this is nearly impossible. So it's a tricky one to fix, and I honestly have never been able to find something that works perfectly. So while I love the idea of stamina and think that it works amazingly well in a healerless campaign, in a campaign with healing characters, it's actually a difficulty increaser and really makes those healer characters feel kinda useless. Just be aware of this before you consider dropping this into your campaign. It may hinder more than it helps. On to variant rule number 5, dual class. I was going to add free archetype in here, but considering basically every table already uses it, I don't really see the point. Suffice to say, if you don't know what free archetype is, it's amazing and I cannot recommend it enough. It basically gives you extra feats that can only be spent on dedications and archetype class feats. But onto the much cooler, more complex dual class. Dual class is absolutely amazing, and if you're looking for character building in PF2E to feel bigger, wilder, and reminiscent of Pathfinder 1st Edition or D&D 3.5 while still maintaining balance, dual class is for you. Effectively, you get to pick 2 classes and take the better benefits of each one. So if you picked Wizard and Fighter, for example, you'd get the Fighter's 10 HP per level rather than the Wizard's 6, and you'd get the Fighter's Expert Weapon proficiency, but also the Wizard's Spellcasting proficiency. Best of both, always. You also now get 2 class feats each level to be taken in each of your classes, so you cannot just pump 2 class feats into a single class. Still, this massively opens up character building options, and you can truly make some batshit crazy character builds. The potential with dual classing is practically endless, and it really makes an already fantastic system even better. But we gotta do pros and cons, so let's start with the pros. Number 1, character building options are insane. Healing rogues, enraged kineticists, tanking wizards, prey hunting champions, support inventors. The potential combinations of classes is absolutely mental, and I could go on for days about this. So instead, let's jump to pro number 2, more abilities, more fun. In combat, your already vast amount of options is opened up even further, allowing you to truly go wild with all of your abilities, given now that you have more and you don't have to worry so much about things like spell slots, as you might have doubled the amount of spells. Never mind the extra tactical choices that are now available to you and your party. Pro number 3, class role choices are opened up. So you don't necessarily need one single person to take the healer role or the tank role, etc. As with multiple classes, there's a good chance that one of these roles will already be taken care of. On to the cons. Number 1, complexity, complexity, complexity. This variant rule in particular adds a ton of extra complex layers to PF2E, and I implore GMs not to let new players dual class until they've played a good few normal sessions. Con 2, this is a big one, balance. The dual class rule specifically states that using double marshals, such as a barbarian fighter, could be problematic, and from my experience this is true, but only in certain circumstances. I think that most double marshals are okay, but if one of those marshals comes with an inherent attack bonus like the fighter or gunslinger, I wouldn't allow that class to pick another marshal for dual classing. My reasoning for this is that in a non-dual class campaign, if you pick the fighter or gunslinger dedication, you will never get that +2 to hit from them, and this design decision must be deliberate. You also won't get the ranger's hunter's edge, etc., and considering Flurry can sort of count as an attack bonus as it lowers the multiple attack penalty, which is essentially the same as giving you a bonus, I think my idea of these decisions being deliberate is true. Damage is damage, and any class can get a lucky crit and roll a stupidly high number, but getting a permanent +2 to hit on top of high damage, like say from a Maze's Spell Strike, the balance will definitely take a huge hit at that point, and that's coming from experience. So my advice is to disallow a double marshal if one of their classes gets an inherent bonus on their attack, such as fighter or gunslinger, etc. You have to be careful with certain subclasses like Thaumaturge with the weapon implement and Untamed Druid with their bonus to unarmed attacks. Just double check these class combos before allowing them. A Magus Rogue or a Champion Barbarian? I mean, you can pick up Sneak Attack and Rage later on with your dedications in the base game, so I imagine this would probably be fine. My other suggestion is to consider how resource attrition might be easier to deal with now, and how this could potentially skew the balance of the game in the party's favour if they aren't as worried about losing certain things like spell slots. You may have to alter some parts of the game to make it work as intended, but tweak and test until you find the right balance for your party. Overall, I love dual classing, and while it's not suitable for every campaign, it's still a fantastic option for those who want more out of the already fantastic character building in PF2E. Now that's the end of the list, and now for the channel update. I did make a community post about this, but I'm currently going through some personal issues that have yet to be resolved and probably won't be sorted for another few months. I intend to keep going with my videos, and I'm sorry I've not been able to upload in a month, but there might yet be times where I'll have to skip a week or two. I'll do my best to keep you informed via community posts, but apologies in advance for if and when this happens. I'm also considering doing some video game content on this channel, though I'd want it to be relative to Pathfinder, at least initially. I imagine that a decent chunk of you, my beautiful loyal viewers, play video games too, but still, let me know in the comments whether that's something you'd be interested in or not. I've been playing video games my whole life and have a wealth of experience with them, and would love to occasionally share some of my thoughts. Other than that, let me know in the comments about your favourite variant rules, and if you want me to do another video chapter on some more. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like and consider subscribing so I can keep making content for you lovely people. And thanks very much for sticking around, and happy holidays to everyone watching. But that's it for this video chapter. This is Dominic of the Dominomicon wishing you a fond farewell, and until next time, goodbye.